What is up, heroes? This is Midnight Zero, and welcome to an NCPL Afterthoughts video. This on screen is the Google document for the NCPL Season 3, and this is my particular page. I want to note that it hasn't been updated in a long time, so don't really pay attention to the stats or anything like that. I'm just going to be using it for reference when talking about certain things, and yeah, this is going to be a very chill video. I want to go over, first of all, the things that I liked, and then the things that I didn't like about this particular season with regards to my team, and then what to do going forward, how to improve those sorts of things, what I'm going to be doing in the future with regards to league format and such, and yeah, that's what you can expect. This is going to be a chill video. If you want to, you can sit back and listen and not really focus too much on what's on screen. I've had a couple weeks now since the end of, has it been a couple weeks? God, it's actually probably been like a week and a half or so now that I think about it, since the end of the NCPL, and I've had some time to think back, and I really thought hard and went back and tried to determine, what exactly went well and what exactly went wrong this season. And before anyone comments on it, even though I won the entire league, no, that does not mean everything went well. So I will be talking about that too. I've got this lovely apparel shop music in the back because I do want to keep things positive. I really like this song, and this conversation could very easily spiral into something negative too. So I'm going to try my best to not do that. But regardless, let's focus first of all on what went well this season. I think this team in particular really suits my playstyle. I know at the beginning of the season I said I wanted to run something bulky offense. I wanted something where I had dedicated offense that I could rely on, and I had some walls, I had some pivots, I had some tanks that I could use to tank hits, get chip damage, and provide opportunities for my offensive threats to come through. And I think that's exactly what this season was. I think almost every single game I brought Garchomp or Thunderous Tea. I didn't bring a single Pokemon every single game. And I brought one Pokemon 0 times. Sorry, Glaceon / Lizzie in this particular case. But yeah, I really liked having Garchomp and Thunderous Tea as both offense or both potent specs or band, but more importantly potent Scarf users, potential SD, nasty plot, agility, very offensive threats that can both set up or hit hard immediately with regards to item. They both have great move pool coverage, and they both hit a great speed tier in my opinion. So there was always that, and there was always the slower, bulkier setup sweeper Mega Scizor with priority in the back. I loved having this trio, this offensive trio. I had two Pokemon that were naturally fast, one that hit really hard on the physical side, one that hit really hard on the special side. Both of them could set up if they wanted to, and both of them were potent Scarf users. And then I also had one bulkier offensive threat with great access to priority, which meant that the speed wasn't always the most important thing. So I really liked having those three mons for offense. I mean, there was potential offense from the rest of the team, but those really are what held everything together. For example, I could have run Dragon Dance, Scrafty. I could have run Armaldo. I actually almost brought Trick Room Armaldo to the championship, and Trick Room offense in general. I think it would have been really cool, but it wasn't something I was as comfortable with, so I didn't end up bringing it. But as I mentioned, there are also pivots that I really like. Tangrowth, Suicune, Florges, Gligar, Bronzong, all of them great pivots. I loved having Tangrowth with Regenerator, with access to great defensive grass typing, and some great natural bulk on both the defensive and special side, not so much, but that fat HP stat is really helpful. And because of the defense investment in Regenerator and access to moves like Synthesis and Leech Seed, you can definitely heal up really quickly. So definitely loved having Tangrowth. Suicune, again, Suicune, god, do I love this Pokemon. I love using Suicune so much. The very first time I did League format, I really loved using Suicune, in particular Crocoon, which pretty much single-handedly smacked down the league. So when coming around this time, I mean, I knew I had to pick or pull some new tricks out of the hat, right? I couldn't just do Crocoon every single time, and I think I only used the standard Crocoon once or twice in this entire season, and I ended up falling in love with Procoon. Absolutely loved using Procoon. I loved using Roarcoon. I loved using mixes. I didn't end up bringing the Hyper Offense Suicune I considered bringing, since I drafted Suicune my very first season. I will save that for future leagues maybe, but I will one day pick up a kill with Extreme Speed Suicune. But regardless, Suicune, definitely super helpful on both the physical and specially defensive sides. Able to set up with Calm Mind, able to stall things out, able to get some clean recovery, able to get burns, little bits of chip damage. God, do I love using Suicune. Florges, didn't use Florges nearly as much as I anticipated. I expected it to be a more reliable special wall, but it's crippling physical defense, and despite having a good fairy type, I feel like it doesn't protected from a lot of common physical attack users. So it didn't really fit in a lot of matches. Only really when I really needed a dedicated special wall did I ended up using Florges for stuff like Darkrai or for stuff like Hydreigon. That's more so where it shined. And it was cool. I feel like in retrospect I would want to have a different Wish Passer though, because I really wanted to have Wish Passing for this team and I just didn't get to incorporate it enough into most matches. Next up is Gligar. Gligar I used a lot more in the beginning of the season. I really liked its defensive typing, its ability to Toxic, its ability to Defog, Roost, U-Turn, and get rid of rocks, in addition to setting them up, right? It's a great roll compression mod, but its typing, it didn't really synergize well with the rest of my team, given how weak I was to Ice. I didn't really think that Gligar would bring a lot on the defensive table in most matches. So, yeah, I didn't end up using this pivot as much as I wanted to, but it definitely put in work when it was brought. Next up is Bronzong. Oh my goodness, do I love having Bronzong. I loved using Bronzong this entire season as a really consistent Stealth Rock setter. It can get Toxics off, it can Gyro Ball for consistent damage, Future Sight potentially, Psychic, Earthquake. It is, in my opinion, a great Pokemon. I loved having the potential to go for dual screens as well, Trick Room offense. The list goes on and on. I really relied on Bronzong this season and it put in so much work. It was a great glue for my team. In general, I like having two big steel types. I like having two steel types because it's just such a great typing, in my opinion, for tanking so many different hits. And when you have a team that pivots around offense a lot, I feel like those sorts of types are really clutch. So, yeah. And then outside of those, I didn't really use too many defensive pivots outside of those 5 Mons. I use Garbodor every now and then. I don't know if I really consider it as much of a pivot. It was there for chip damage. You guys know what Garbodor does. It gets up hazards. I love having Garbodor there. It's one of, in my opinion, the best lower tier Pokemon picks because of access to Toxic Spikes and Spikes, and with Rocky Helmet and Aftermath. It's just so great at getting chip damage on all of the Pokemon on your opponent's team. So definitely liked having that. Scrafty didn't do as much as I anticipated. I thought it was going to be a lot more of a defensive pivot with access to Intimidate and potentially a sweeper with Dragon Dance. Oftentimes just didn't find the time to set up on things, and because of its speed stat, even after Dragon Dance, it was outsped by quite a few Mons and a lot of Scarfers, so it was just a little bit more difficult to justify bringing when I had stuff like Thunderous Tea, which could just Agility once, or I had stuff like Garchomp, which was already naturally fast and could just SG once. So what else do we got here? Yeah, I didn't really bring the other ones too much. Armaldo, when I brought it, it put in a ton of work, and I feel like it would fit really well in a Trick Room team. I just never had the balls to bring a Trick Room team. Articuno, I was thinking more along Hail and potentially Aurora Veil offense, but its rock weakness was just too much. It was never good enough to outclass Suicune or Tangrowth, in my opinion, so never brought that. Well, I did. It was actually going to be really good against Mega Gallade, but in JP's team, but it didn't matter in that case. Trapinch, I liked having Trapinch as the potential to trap things. It's really helpful for Magnezone and Magneton, which were, a pain for my Bronzong and Mega Scizor to deal with, so I liked having it as an option. Glaceon, I really wanted to bring Glaceon, I just never had the courage to do so. I know I had the flexibility, I don't want to treat any game less than an important, like it's anything less than important, so I didn't want to mess around. I would consider bringing Glaceon on a Trick Room offense or something like that, but again, never found the time. But overall, just looking at the team, like I said, few offensive threats, a lot of different types of defensive bulk, whether it's dedicated physical, mixed, dedicated special, different typings, different abilities to recover, and wish passing. I love that sort of defensive network that my team could provide, and those opportunities that created for my offensive team, making it a really reliable team in my opinion. Almost every single Pokemon here has 100% accurate moves that it regularly relies on. It has reliable recovery. To an extent, it can pass recovery, and it has a bit of momentum between U-turn and Volt Switch and such. And with access to hazards and that sort of a Volt Turn core and the ability to heal up a bit and to provide offense with, defense like screens, I think this team was really consistent. It isn't overpowering or like domineering over any particular team, and it isn't overly dominated by any one team. It was every single matchup was one that was maybe a little bit tough, maybe a little bit easier, but never a walk in the park. And every single week, though, I could bring a team that could win. I knew I had a chance to win every single week with this team, and there wasn't some, oh my goodness, this Mon, like, I have nothing to do with any of the weeks. And similarly, I knew that I didn't have any one of those Mons for any of the other teams. And in that sense, every single week I had to play my best. I had to play well in order to win, because I didn't have some overwhelming advantage. And I really like that. I always like having a fair shot at winning based on the matchup, and I like having that pressure on myself to play well, because it feels like I earn every single victory I do have. And I think that's my kind of team. This sort of consistency, this sort of balance, this, leveling between offense and defense, this pressure to build up chip damage, to have a plan. I can't stress enough how important having a plan was with this team. Knowing what each Mon needs to do and assigning roles and duties at the beginning of the match. I loved getting to use this team. What do I think I could have improved? I think, again, I want a better Wish Passer. Maybe better dedicated special wall. I'm thinking in the future I might want to go with something like Umbreon rather than Florges, but I'm not 100% sure yet. I do want to get another more reliable Stealth Rock setter, or a potentially better spinner. That was one thing I found myself missing quite a bit. But other than that, there isn't too much else I found myself lacking a lot. So really like this team. As far as the negatives go, like I said, the team itself I don't think has too many negatives. And I already touched on most of them, so it's not like we need to, harp on them by any means. But I think this season as a whole had quite a few negatives. I think this was the first season in a while that, more so than the fun, the frustration dominated my experience. In the battles, outside of the battles, inside the battles, when I was, actually battling someone, I feel like I had quite a bit of fun. Obviously, it started off on the wrong foot with that battle against Manu, and that was my fault, right? That was my fault. I didn't play well, so that's why I ended up in that situation. But in the rest of the matches after that were pretty fun. It's just kind of everything surrounding the matches that really kind of weighed down on this season. I don't want to throw out names, but there was a lot of variability in caring, really, about the league. I really wanted to, give my all, and I always want to be playing against an opponent who's giving his or her all as well. That's what a battle is to me. It's testing your best ability at your peak level, your peak performance against someone else who's also doing the same. And if those are the conditions, if that is the case, it will be fun no matter what. Win or lose, if you're both trying your best and the real winner, earned that victory, and it was something that you felt you fought for and still lost and can improve from, that's what battling is really about, and that's what I enjoy the most. It's not necessarily about winning. If I can learn from losses, that's still a victory to me too. And the battle with Manu should be a real testament to that. If you watch the first match and then you watch my team builder for the next one, just like the difference in mentality, the details and everything and how I built and all that. I definitely learned a lot with this team over the course of the season, and that's of course the case now as well. But again, I want to stress that part of what made this season difficult was because of the attitude of the league outside of the battles. And I mentioned that I will be leaving the NCPL, and that's probably not going to change by any means. And there are a lot of reasons for that. I don't want to get too deep into them, but I think that the atmosphere of the NCPL isn't really fit for me. And I know I joined the league a while ago, and I've definitely gotten to know the guys in there a bit better, and they're all good people. I don't want this to be seen as like a personal attack on the members of the NCPL. They're all great guys, and they're fun to like joke around and stuff with. And I've gotten to know a couple of them a lot better than like standard friend, I guess. And I've gotten to, record videos with them and hang out with them, have really long discussions with them, and it's been a ton of fun. So I'm really happy that I did join the NCPL and had the experience of playing these guys and getting to know these guys over the past couple of years. But I do think the atmosphere is a little bit stagnant. There's kind of a culture of not really moving forward or progressing with regards to Pokemon, with regards to just about everything else with respect to the league as well. And there's kind of a culture of nobody's getting hurt. There's a lack of constructive criticism per se, and I don't know, that's not really what I'm looking for in a league. I know that the NCPL is largely a group of friends, and so maybe they're trying to play extra safe in order to not hurt each other's feelings and valuing that friendship more. It's not that I wouldn't value friendship, I guess it's just that I would consider constructive criticism and such, and that sort of improvement, that sort of feedback inherent to a friendship and improving. But again, I feel like that's potentially where we, fundamentally differ. And so I found myself very frustrated with every time I would suggest something that I perceive as an improvement, whether it is an improvement or not, I'll leave to debate. But it was never well accepted. I feel like I was one of the few people to ever actually suggest anything to change, to constantly look to improve the league's format, the statistics, how it's run, the rules, and then people's playstyles as well. And granted, I'm not going to claim to be perfect. Like, there were times where I was a bit insensitive and offered constructive criticism or feedback, or was like, why'd you do this, when probably people weren't emotionally ready to accept that. And I acknowledge that, of course, and I'm sorry for that. But it was kind of like he's like really upset now, just like let him do that and let him be upset. Like, he doesn't want to hear about that, and like let him come back to it later. And it was like, okay. And then it was like never getting back to you later. It was kind of like oh my goodness, it's been so long since we've seen each other. We should hang out. Let's get lunch. Yeah, I'll text you later. I'm kind of busy this day. How about next week? Oh, maybe. And then like you never hang out. And a few weeks later, you're like, oh yeah, that's right. We should get lunch sometime. And I feel like that's kind of the status of people improving in the NCPL right now. And I do want to say, I'm throwing out some broad generalizations. I do want to say that there are a few exceptions, and I won't really name them because I don't want to bring out names, but know that this doesn't apply to everyone. And if you are one of the people that is an exception, you probably know very well that you are an exception. And I do want to thank those people. They kept me company when I felt like I was almost always being attacked for suggesting improvements to just about anything. And the discourse in the league is not at all what I'm looking for. I just started medical school, and one of the huge parts of it is team-based learning. You get a group of 6 and you do 3 or 4 activities for 2.5 hours each week for the entire year, going through cases together, discussing really broad, general, complex questions together, solutions, ethical questions and such together. And they're intentionally composed in a way for diversity of experiences, whether that's cultural, whether that's age-based, whether that's gender-based, whether that's undergrad-based, whether that's major-based, a whole bunch of different experiences. And I absolutely love it. I have a whole bunch of people in my group. It's a group of 6 that come from whole different walks of life and bring totally different perspectives to the table that very much differ from mine. And I think a lot of times we do disagree and such, but because everyone is smart and everyone is civil and everyone understands that we're having a logical discussion, we're having a rational discussion about ideas. These aren't personal attacks against other members of the group. And if you do defend an idea, you're expected to do so with evidence and have a solid reasoning for doing so. And it's a discussion of why you believe a certain way, understanding why other people believe a certain way, and then coming to terms. If one person's foundational belief is incorrect, correcting that and being open to that correction, right? That is like an environment that I absolutely thrive in, and I really appreciated that. The NCPL is not that. The NCPL is very far from that. I don't think we've had much of a constructive discussion at all about just about anything I've ever decided to bring up, and that has been the most frustrating aspect of this season, and single-handedly why I've decided not to come back. I feel like every single time I've talked with people outside of the matches themselves in the league with regards to a particular move or potential ways to improve the league or different rules or why something is the way it is, I've just been met with incredible waves of personal attacks and a lack of rationale, and it's been a huge stressor in my life. There are days where almost days are ruined because I spend 2 or 3 hours on Discord typing back and forth with people, and I don't know. It's not something I want to experience again, and that's why I won't be coming back. Again, at the end of the day, though, I want to stress these people, these members of the NCPL, all of them are still good guys. I know people disagree and such, and I just don't think that the NCPL does disagreement, or rather discussion or debate, in a very constructive, positive way, and that's not really where I want to be. So that's why I won't be back in the NCPL. And sorry, I said I didn't want this to get too negative. I didn't want this to get too negative. So I'm kind of swing back now about what's going to happen going forward. I don't really know yet. That's the truth. I don't really know yet. I love drafting for league formats. I love the counter team format. It's probably my favorite way to play competitive Pokemon. And going forward, I want to join another league. I considered starting my own league. I'm not 100% sure exactly how that would go, though, especially because, well, I've talked to a couple people that I want to be in said league, and I don't know if I'll have the support or all the members that I do want. So I'm still working on that, and I'll probably keep an eye out for potential leagues. But I want to have a league with friends, with people that I know are positive, people that are going to form that sort of a team-based learning community, where people are positively providing feedback to each other, where people are constantly looking to improve and have fun through good battles. In the same way that I described a good battle earlier, it's not always about winning, it's about having a good battle. And I'm still looking for that sort of environment. If you guys have an idea of what to do or some way to find said environment, I appreciate, any sort of comments or pushing me in any direction down below in the comment section. But that's about all I've really got for the time being. It's kind of what I thought about the NCPL, what I learned from the NCPL, and what I want to do going forward. I learned a lot about what kind of Pokemon teams I like. I learned a lot about how to use said teams. I learned a lot about what sorts of environments I enjoy being around, what types of people I enjoy discussing things with. And yeah, I learned a lot from the NCPL. So I want to thank in particular Max for running the NCPL this third season, I think, in total. So thank you, Max, for that. And I do want to thank everyone in NCPL because I did learn a lot from all of you. And despite the negative times, which are plenty, I still did have plenty of fun in this particular season. And I hope that everyone in the NCPL continues to improve and can move forward and hopefully get better at Pokemon and such. And maybe I'll come back someday if it's still going on, but who knows? Who knows? In the meantime, I'm going to try and find other ways to enjoy Pokemon because I watched a new Pokemon movie that came out in Japan. Absolutely fell all in love with it over again. Lizzie and I went to the Pokemon Center. We brought our DSs. We downloaded some event Pokemon there. We bought some Pokemon like stickers and stationery, and the movie was so good. And I'm like in such a Pokemon mood. I want to play more Pokemon. I just don't know exactly how to express all of my joy and passion for Pokemon right now. So let me know if you guys would want to see something else Pokemon, whether it's, more like Showdown Lives, or whether it's a playthrough of a game, a Nuzlocke, a randomizer, something like that. I definitely would want to hear your guys' thoughts. And if you guys have anything else different, any suggestions, anything like that, of course, I'm always open-minded. So just hit me up. Sorry, I've been rambling. I think I've very much been rambling now at this end because I don't really know a very conclusive way to end it off. But I guess this is the end of the NCPL. Thank you guys so much for watching. I really appreciated your support. I do very much feel like a loner in these league formats, as kind of, I don't know if you guys have seen, yeah, I know I've mentioned it before, but when you're kind of at the top, it's lonely. Everyone's aiming at you, and everyone's trying to bring you down, and it does get lonely. And I really don't have any supporters in the NCPL. Every match, it was, unless I was going against like Manu in the championship, which I think is the only time I had a couple people reach out to me and tell me they were cheering for me. It was, I'd announce who I was battling, and someone would immediately announce they were cheering against me, and so forth. And so it got pretty lonely, and I really appreciate you guys' comments and your guys' support on these videos. So thanks a ton. I really do appreciate it. It means a lot to me. And I'm glad that through these videos, I've at least been able to expose some of you guys to competitive Pokemon. Again, I did make a brief introduction to competitive Pokemon video a while back. You can search for that if you want, if it's still a little unfamiliar. But I'll see you guys in whatever competitive Pokemon video, or rather whatever video you decide to watch of mine that's next. But until then, this has been Night Zero, and this mission is complete.